Hey pals, so it's been a while since I've done a video on the main channel. I would say I feel a little bit out of practice, but I have still been doing videos over on the Patreon, so that stops this from feeling like too weird for me. I'm not quite sure how long it's been, maybe a couple of months, maybe not as long as that. I thought I would do a video just sort of catching up because it's been a bit of a mad year for me, and yeah, a few things have changed, and I think they're probably going to have an effect on the channel going forward. And so I just thought, yeah, have a bit of a catch up with you and then talk about those changes. And then depending on how long I've rambled, I might talk about some bookish stuff as well. I do love this time of year on BookTube. I love all the end of the year videos and I love all the videos looking forward to the start of a new year. So yeah, this is a time when I really enjoy making content and also really enjoy watching everyone else's content. So I am very excited and happy to be back. So what has been going on? I haven't planned this at all, so as usual with my videos. So I've not had a great year, and I guess a couple of months ago I sort of actually decided I should probably acknowledge that in terms of like to myself, and yeah, just sort of realised that my mental health had got pretty poor. My anxiety had got pretty high, and just general sort of self-loathing had become ever present. And so I started seeing a counsellor, which has been super helpful. I think I've seen her for 10 or 11 sessions now. I've been going weekly, and I was super lucky that I chose someone I'm going private because like trying to go through the NHS is really difficult. And so yeah, it was something I've been considering for a couple of years, ever since. For those of you who've been around a while, I'm sorry if you know all this and I'm just repeating myself, but those of you that haven't, a couple of years ago, first year of lockdown, I started experiencing some sort of weird, unexplainable symptoms of sort of nerve pain and pins and needles, and yeah, just my hands started to get quite weak, and I had all these spots in my vision, and I had to stop reading and had to stop working, and it became quite difficult. And I was quite quickly diagnosed with something called functional neurological disorder. I say quickly because it took 6 months, but I know some people take like 8 years to be diagnosed with it. And it's a condition that they need to do a lot more research into. But there is a feeling in the medical community that it could be to do with sort of repressed stress and anxiety and depression, and that people should seek like mental health support to deal with it. I knew that, but at the time, because of the fact that the condition's not really researched, I couldn't go through the NHS for the counselling, even though that was what I was being recommended by someone else in the NHS. Very odd. And I couldn't afford to see someone privately. So I left it, and a couple of years later, I was sort of hoping the condition would resolve itself. It hasn't. And I guess I sort of realised that it's become more present in my life in terms of just things like, I'm always really bad at what the difference is between fatigue and lethargy. But I don't feel like I want to sleep all the time, but I get really easily worn out. So if I have to like walk somewhere or carry a bag when I'm doing something, it just feels painful. I get very hot, I get very tired, I start to feel a bit like that's just become much more common in my life the last year. And so I just thought, I need to do something to resolve this. And then I've just had a bit of a mad year personally, which I don't want to go into. And so, yeah, I decided that I was going to have to make some life changes. And one of those was to see a counsellor, even if I had to pay for it, which I'm doing. And, to a degree, if you're from the UK and you're used to the NHS like I am, it does feel weird going to talk to somebody about really difficult things. Like I don't know if I necessarily expected how difficult it would be. And then to have to transfer them some money afterwards for it, it does feel a bit odd. However, I think it's the right thing for me to do. And like I say, I'm really fortunate. I specifically sought out a counsellor who had experience in the link between the mind and the body and pain and things like that, which is really great, and I really like her. And at the same time as making that decision, I decided to quit my job. I've been working at my local university since I think 2015, but I've been doing the job I was in for 5 years. If you don't know, I was a sort of project officer in medical research, so I dealt with getting funding in and contracts and sort of helping to set up clinical trials and stuff like that. And there was lots of it that was super interesting, and I got on with loads of people I worked with, but things have got harder over the last few years. There's more and more things expected of the role, and the salary hasn't gone up accordingly, shock horror. And yeah, my portfolio in general had just become very stressful. And I reduced my hours. I started doing 90% hours instead of 100. So I basically got 4 hours off a week, in which I thought, okay, that will allow me to continue the channel, because that was becoming a difficult thing to manage. I think I've said before, but I'd got to the point with the channel where I'd never felt like I was off, because at the weekend I was always the need to do a video, and usually one day of the weekend would be taken up with seeing either my family or Johnny's family or friends, so then the other day would be, well, this is my YouTube day, so there was never like a day to chill. So I started doing 4 longer days and then 1 day off in the week, and then I tried to use that 1 day in the week for videos, and what it became is I just used that 1 day in the week to sort of recover. Like my because my F&D was playing up, and so I wasn't using it to do as many videos I wanted to do, all this stuff. And so I had to have this big discussion with myself a few months back. I got signed off work sick, because I was just, my anxiety was just really bad. It was at the point where I was sort of looking at the screen and just being like, what the hell am I doing here? And I tried to sort of figure out what my options were. Now, obviously, finances can be a massive stressor in life. And so a big part of me not wanting to leave my job is that it pays me fairly well for my skill set. Like the university is a pretty good employer in Norwich. And yeah, so like I knew that that was something that was going to be hard to walk away from in terms of the sort of financial security of that. And that was difficult, but I've always been someone who, Johnny and I don't go on holiday abroad, and we don't drive a car, and we live a relatively low cost life, I guess, in that we're more happy to have time than money. So to us, like, most of the time when we take time off work, we just want that time off work to be at home and like be with our cats and like play board games and just chill. So it's not like super costly for us when we have time off and stuff. So for a long time, that's been something that I'm aware of with myself, that even though I'm fairly driven in a job, and sometimes, depending on what industry you work in, that equates to the more driven you are, the more you're likely to earn. I'm also completely against that sort of capitalist notion of, well, if I can earn more, I must earn more. And I think I'd got myself in that trap. Within our life, there's always been a fair amount of financial responsibility on me. And I think that's become a real stressor for me. And so, yeah, I sort of had a big thought about it, a big think about it, and decided to sort of take the risk and to resign. And I have to work 3 months notice in my job, but they owe me loads of holiday. So I finished last Wednesday. That was my last day, although officially I'm employed until like mid-January. And yeah, what I've managed to do is put a little bit of money by and allow myself, if necessary, a few months of not having a job. I'm hoping that won't happen, because I think that'll make me a little bit anxious. But yeah, to allow that to happen and to sort of let myself have December to reassess, and because like I said, I'm still being paid, and then start looking for another job. But I'm just looking for something easy, whether that's a job in the library or a bookshop or in a cafe or something like that, part-time hours, and I'm hoping to focus much more on the channel. It's become that it was a choice if I wanted to continue to progress on the career path I was on, and sort of focus, I guess, on the money. then it had become that I was just going to have to stop doing the channel, because for a long time now I haven't been able to do the channel to anywhere near the degree that I want to do it, in terms of the amount of videos I do, but mainly in terms of the type of videos I do. I've had a list of 20 videos I want to do for about 3 years. And in the last 3 years, I've crossed one of those videos off the list, and they're sort of recommendation type videos. I know the books I need to talk about on those videos, they just take longer for me to prepare and to edit, and I just don't have the time. And also don't have the, if you don't do videos, sometimes I think this might sound weird, but I sometimes, but often feel like I have to be in the right space to do a video. I have to be in the right mood. I have to be maybe not too self-critical, where I'm just going to get annoyed with myself and like keep refilming and stuff. And I find those videos harder to do in that regard. And so, yeah, I just haven't had the mindset, I guess, to do them. So my plan for 2024 is to get, like I said, a part-time job that's lower stress, that hopefully allows me to move around a bit more. I find that sort of sitting at a desk and doing that type of job isn't necessarily the best thing for my mental health, but also isn't the best thing for my FND. Moving definitely helps with the pain. And then, yeah, just be able to focus much more on the channel. And if it is possible to have the channel become sort of part of my income, then I think I can continue with it. And if it isn't, then it's got to the point in my life, unfortunately, I think, where I can't give up at least 10 hours a week to something that just takes 10 hours out of my working income. I know that sounds really depressing. What the hell is that? I don't know, there's something weird flying through the sky outside. It's like a jet ski or something. Not a jet ski. What are those things where people... Wind glider? I don't know. But it's really rainy, so I don't know why anyone would be doing that. Anyway, yeah, so I guess the balance of like my condition and you know, getting worn out easily, and sort of making myself ill, and the condition of sort of weighing the time and energy of putting into a hobby that takes 10 hours on top of a full-time job, and weighing that up against the stress of the type of job I was doing and all those things, I've decided to sort of take the risk of getting a part-time easier job and trying to pair that with the channel, in the hope that that allows me to continue to do the channel. And if, however long I can give myself to test this, 6 months, maybe a year, if that isn't the case, if that's not possible, then I think I just have to accept that either I don't do this anymore, or I only ever do a video when I have the time, and if that's like once every 2 months or whatever it is, then that's what this becomes. And just also, I mean, I guess I touched on it briefly a moment ago, but it's kind of demotivating to, I've had this channel for 10 years now, and I've had peaks and troughs within that period of when I've been really happy with the content I'm putting out. And I guess I feel like I haven't been for a while, because I'm only ever doing the content that feels essential, which is like wrap-ups and things like that. 3 of my favourite books of this year I haven't even reviewed, because I've even felt in a place where mentally I don't feel confident enough to speak about those books eloquently. I feel really intimidated by that, which is silly, because I've been someone who for years has enjoyed filming reviews, but I've just got in that space, and I just think I need to give myself the time to get that confidence back, to give myself the time to prepare if I need to prepare, and to find the joy in it again. Because, when I was having this thought process, something that John and I discussed a lot is, do I still want to do this? Do I still enjoy this? And the answer I come back to is always yes. Because when I have the time for this, I love it. I love filming the videos, I love editing them, I love talking to you in the comments, I love watching other people's videos, I still watch BookTube every day. And I'd really miss this not being a part of my reading. But somewhere along the line, I've lost the sort of the pride and the confidence and the enjoyment in it, and I really want to get that back. So that is my aim, I guess. So sorry if that was really rambly, and I'm aware, like, even in my own tone, I can hear that I've said all this in quite a low and calm voice. So I don't want to appear somber. I feel really Obviously I feel slightly nervous because I've quit my job, and that's quite scary, but I feel excited to give this a go. I feel really lucky that I could sort of take this risk, and yeah, I feel pretty hopeful. I'm super excited about like I said, this next 2 months on BookTube and all the videos I can create and watch other people create, and yeah, just for all the other ideas I've had for a while. Do let me know if there's any videos that you would like to see. I have a lot, like I said, about 20 recommendation videos planned. And I also am hoping to actually have the time to do reading vlogs, and to do like more challenge videos, and yeah, to do lots of stuff like that. So I'm feeling really excited to do all those things. I like very often watch other people's videos and just think, God, like, you know, I'd love to be able to do that sort of content more, that's sort of exciting and start conversations more. And I feel like maybe 5 or 6 years ago I did that more, and I haven't for a while, and so yeah, I'm feeling really excited. I do have a Patreon. I hate mentioning this, and so I never do, but it feels like probably I should in terms of my future plans. I have a Patreon and I have 4 tiers on a Patreon, and how it's previously worked is that on the first tier you get 1 video, on the second you get 2, on the third you get 3, on the fourth you get 4. Shock horror. But I've decided to change it recently. I've changed it so that everybody, regardless of the amount you pay, gets all 4 videos. I've done that for a few reasons. One, the main one, I guess, is that obviously there are less people on the higher tiers. I completely get that because of finances. In this world, like, I completely get why it's hard to commit to supporting things like this when, you know, people are struggling to pay their bills. But what I love about making videos is having a conversation, and so it's more fun for me if there's more people to chat. I also like the idea of it for like accessibility reasons, like if all you feel you can provide or support me with is $1, then yeah, like I think it's nice for you still to be able to have access to all 4 videos. And so yeah, I'm really excited about it, and sort of really liking the community and like the regular commenters I see on there, and just excited to try and build that a bit more. We have a Discord which we chat on, but again, I'm sort of happy to have time to chat more over there. So briefly, if you don't know what my tier options are, as I said, whichever tier you subscribe to, you'll have access to all 4 videos. So the 4 videos are, once a month I do a currently reading video where I talk about, I'm usually reading 3 books at a time, so I talk about those. I do a book club video. Each month we choose a book, and I upload a spoilery video at the end of the month talking about that book. Then I do a DNF video, which is the most popular tier on there. Like I said, any tier you subscribe to now would give you access to that. I really enjoy those videos. I DNF at least 3 books a month. I really ummed and ahed about whether to put that video on here because I knew that, you know, people really enjoy those type of videos. But ultimately I decided, a couple of reasons, I didn't want it to be massively public. A lot of the times I DNF books by debut authors because their writing just isn't for me. And that's not to say it's bad, it just isn't for me. And that feels kind of cruel to like bash a debut author really publicly. And secondly, you know, you tend to get a bit more vitriol in the comments and videos like that. And just where I've been at mentally, I haven't really had the capacity to deal with that, to be honest. So yeah, so I've sort of put it behind a paywall so that people can't be mean to me. I'm joking. So yeah, and then the 4th option is I do a monthly video where I talk about what I've watched in the month. That's mainly films, but I do talk about the TV I watch as well. And I've actually really enjoyed that because when I first started doing it, I didn't feel super confident, and I'm still not great at like remembering all the names of the directors and stuff like that, and that's something I definitely want to get better at. But it's like with anything, the more you talk about it, the more at ease you feel. And so yeah, I've been really enjoying that, and we've been watching quite a lot of films the last few months, and I've really enjoyed having a space to talk about them. And I guess if you haven't heard me talk about films before, my film and TV taste is quite similar to my bookish taste. So I like a lot of very serious, depressing family dramas, and I like a lot of slow films. I like a lot of character focus, and sort of films that ask interesting, I guess, ethical or moral questions. So yeah, so I've seen some really excellent films this year that have made me want to go and watch other works by those directors or with those actors in and stuff like that. So yeah, that is that. So I probably should end here, but I'm gonna let this video go longer and chat about the books I'm hoping to read before the end of the year. So I've not had the best reading year in terms of like enjoyment. I've read around 70 books, and I have read quite a few rereads, probably maybe around 10, and I've loved that because I've given most of them 5 stars, and that has been a joy and is something I hope to do way more of next year and in the coming years, because I only keep books I want to reread, and so what is the point in all these books behind me if I'm never going to reread them? So I really want to focus on that more next year. But I haven't loved a lot of the books that weren't rereads. I do have a few books I want to talk about in a favourite books of the year video, books that I really enjoyed, but I'd like there to be more. I'd like my year to end with a bang. So I have a stack of books here that I would like to read. Quite a few of them are library books because pre-lockdown, I was allowed 12 books out at a time. Then they increased it to I think 25, which is how many books I have out at the moment. And I got an email the other day saying on the 1st of January they're reducing it to 20, which is still really generous. But yeah, I have got a few books on hold that are waiting for me to pick up. And so I need to read probably around 8 of these before the new year in order to get myself to the new limit of 20. I don't know what will happen on the 1st of January of like, I have over 20 books out. I assume that once I start taking them back, I just won't be allowed to borrow anymore that keeps taking me over 20. I don't know. Librarians, tell me how this works if your policy changes. So the stack of books I have one more reread definitely planned before the end of the year. And that is the Patreon book club read for December, which is The Wolf Border by Sarah Hall. And we've done a couple of rereads this year. This is another reread for me. And I really wanted to read it around this time of year because I remember there being a good Christmas scene. I think snow is featured. This isn't a Christmassy book, but as you can tell by the cover, this always makes me think of like this time of year. And I remember really loving this book. I've wanted to reread it since I read it, which I don't know, when did I read this? Probably the year it came out, which was 2015. I've read quite a few of Sarah Hall's books. I think her writing on a sentence by sentence level is spectacular. But I've felt a bit hit and miss about her books because some of them are fairly plotless. I think this is probably, out of the ones I've read, the most accessible. And yeah, so I really want to revisit this. And yeah, I don't think a lot of people have read it, so I'm really excited to have more people read it on my Patreon and to chat about it and like see what other people think. And this is about a wildlife conservationist, which is what I trained in at university, and it has really interesting sort of ethical questions, so it's a good one to chat to people about. So there's that. I may also try and read before the end of the year. I haven't read this book since I was 16, and I'm now 33. The Secret History by Donna Tartt, because I've wanted to reread it, obviously, for years. But I recently went to cinema to see Saltburn, which is the new Emerald Fennell film. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, Secret History, which I think a lot of people were. And yeah, so I sort of want to reread the book to see if they are that similar. And also, there is a scene I have in my head from a book that I read when I was a teenager that I think is The Secret History, but I'm not sure. And it's of like a sort of fancy type house, and there's a scene in a garden that's like a slightly wooded area with a statue in it where there's like quite a, I don't know if it's a conversation or something weird takes place, but I think that could be The Secret History. And for like an image to have stuck in my head for like 17 years, I think it must be a fairly spectacularly written scene. If it isn't The Secret History, I'm going to be gutted because I have no idea what book it is. So the other ones I'm going to run through quickly because this video is long enough. I'm on a swivel chair and now I'm moving. So I wanted to try and read more short story collections this year. I haven't done brilliantly at it, but I do have quite a few to choose between, and these are the three that are sort of priority. This one I just borrowed from the library. It is Antarctica by Claire Keegan. It's quite funny because probably 7 or 8 years ago now, I added this and her other collection, which I think is called Walk the Blue Field, to my online TBR, and I've never got around to picking them up. And now she's having this resurgence, and all of her books are being republished in these lovely editions. So because I'm shallow, I'm now reading them because they're beautiful. So yeah, I have no idea if this is wintry, but like the title and the cover make me think it is. So I will be reading that one. Then 2 I recently bought. I have Shut Up, You're Pretty by Taya Matunji. This is an interlinked short story collection about a young Canadian Congolese woman. And yeah, all these short stories follow her life. And I quite enjoy interlinked short story collections, and I love that cover and that title. And then we have Sleeping Alone by Rue Freeman. This came out a couple of years ago and it's had amazing reviews. And yeah, I would really like to read this one. Then I only have one novel. I am reading a few books at the moment, and a couple of them I think I'll probably give 5 stars, and they're mainly novels, so I'm not focusing a lot on other novels for the rest of the year. The one I would really like to read is Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. Again, I think this will be a good book to read in the winter, because this is set on a remote Siberian peninsula. And this is sort of like, some people call it a novel, some people call it a short story collection, interlinked short stories about people in and around this area after 2 young girls go missing. And based on the reviews, I think I could really love this author's writing. Then I have Abandon Me by Melissa Febos. Girlhood was one of my favourite reads of, I think, probably last year. It was a memoir in interconnected essays. This is another memoir and interconnected essays that Melissa Febos has written, and I just love the things she writes about. She's super intelligent. She really sort of challenges me in my thought process, and yeah, it says that this captures the intense bonds of love and the need for connection with family, lovers and oneself. So I feel like I'll be really sad and shocked if I don't give this 5 stars. And then I have a couple of I don't know why I said that so weirdly, a couple more memoirs. Again, I have a list of about 100 memoirs I want to read, and I've done a really bad job this year at chipping away at that list. So that's something I really want to try and do next year, but I thought I would sort of try and get a head start on it. These are 2 new releases, memoirs that I've just borrowed from the library. This one is Some of Us Just Fall on Nature and Not Getting Better by Polly Atkin. I have read a couple of memoirs in the last year or so that focus on people with chronic illness, and yeah, I really enjoy them. I think they really challenge me and like my thought processes of living with a chronic illness, and the idea of like accepting that in yourself and sort of forgiving that in yourself and things like that. And this one is really connected to nature writing, which is something I want to love, but mainly dislike because I think it's really overrun by white middle class privileged people, mainly men, and so I don't love it. But every now and again a book comes out that I think maybe will, actually sort of suit my preferences a bit more. So I'm hoping this is one of them. And then this memoir is getting loads of buzz. The author actually narrates this herself, so I'm undecided whether to listen to it or to read it physically or to do a combination. So let me know if you've read this one. And that's How to Save Babylon by Safia Sinclair. This sounds absolutely amazing. Safia Sinclair was raised by her father, who was a very strict Rastafarian, and she had quite a difficult upbringing. The memoir opens with her sort of fleeing her family home, and then it goes back and sort of looks at her father's history and the effect he had on her and the people around him. And it's, being super celebrated. So excited about that one. And then non-fiction is The Quickening Creation and Community at the Ends of the Earth by Elizabeth Rush. This is a sort of blend of, I guess, a historical book. No, it's not historical. In 2019, 57 scientists and crew set out on board this big boat. The destination was the Thwaites Glacier, and Elizabeth Rush documents their voyage. I think she was on the ship. She writes a lot about the people who are on the ship, and she also writes about like the history of polar expedition, and how people like women and people of colour have been sort of written out of the story, and how they are actually really important in getting people on these polar expeditions. And also this is a big discussion about climate change and what we're doing to the world, and all those things are deeply interesting to me, so hoping to love this one. So those are the books. I mean, I've been absolutely shit at reading lately. Since I last checked in with you, I think I've read around 20 books, but that is across 4 months, so not great. So I will try and catch up on all of those. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, whether I'll talk about loads of them in one video and just do a big blitz, I don't know. But yeah, so I think I'm being a little bit ambitious because I'm not reading that quickly, but I am now off work, so I have all the time in the world. So yeah, I will definitely fit some audiobooks in as well, because I really want to get out walking as much as possible, because yeah, I find that's just good for me in every regard, mentally and physically. So if you have any audiobooks to recommend that you think would be suited to winter or to walking, then do let me know. But yeah, that is what I'm planning to read before the end of the year. Before I go, I do want to touch on what has been happening in Palestine, and this is something I've sort of struggled with, how to deal with talking about world events when I have a platform like this, because I feel so conflicted. So I'll firstly just talk about what's happening and my thoughts on it, because I always hope that my politics are clear, and I hope that I'm preaching to the converted, but maybe all of that is just an ignorant, naive hope. I think what is happening to the Palestinian people is absolutely abhorrent. I think that to watch a genocide in real time whilst living in a country like the UK or like the US is horrific. You know, in that we are seeing our politicians do these mental gymnastics in order to not support a ceasefire. I am not educated enough about any of this, and a couple of years ago I tried to read a book called 100-Year War on Palestine, and just felt like it was going over my head. So I do definitely want to try and learn more, but yeah, my understanding of like geopolitics is pretty shit, and so that's something I always want to work on more. And one thing I found really hard to understand with all this is how a ceasefire doesn't go ahead because like one country votes against it and one country abstains from voting. Like, that's madness. So it then becomes apparent that these systems are designed so that countries like the US and the UK have more control, which is also vile. And I find it really hard to be someone who has a platform like this at times like this, which is now all the time basically, because the world we live in is pretty fucking horrible. Because it feels like if we all continue to... There's these two realities, right? There's the one in which obviously it's physically impossible to completely stop living your life and to just live in the horror of all these things that are happening around the world. Sometimes I feel like maybe if everyone did do that, these things wouldn't happen, but I guess that's also never going to happen. And then to sort of, you know, even, you know, when you have these conversations, you read another thing on the news that's happened and you're like, oh my God, that's awful. And you look into it and you read about it. How to then just go and make your dinner and to go, oh, I need to put that on the list to get from the shops. It's madness. And that becomes even more complicated when you have a channel like this, because, okay, so I'm just going to be completely open about my thought process in terms of this, is that firstly, I feel that to not say anything feels wrong, in that, yeah, to just continue to talk about books. And on the other hand, I am not the person to go to about this, right? Like, if I'm your way of receiving the news or being sort of educated about this, then that's a concern, because I'm struggling to keep myself educated. I also have big concerns about the sort of performative nature of it. Like, this version of me is someone who sits in front of a camera and has some sort of idea of what they're going to say before. I mean, I haven't really today, but usually I do. That's not real life. Instagram isn't real life. None of these things are real life. So within my real everyday interactions, of course I engage with people about these things. Of course I challenge things if people say something I think is wrong. But to just say something online when it isn't in conversation, I fear sometimes comes across as I'm doing it as like a tick box. I'm doing it to say I've done it. I'm doing it to appear, you know, liberal and all these things. And that feels cheap and nasty. And so I have this battle with myself. And I haven't really resolved how I feel about any of this. And I don't know if there is a right or a wrong answer. So that's that, really. And I say all this at the end of the video, sort of because it's similar to what I said about hearing about all this and then going to make your dinner. Like, how do you have these conversations and then continue to then just talk about books? It's also, the world we live in is pretty bizarre. So to sort of hold these horrors that are happening to real people right now against, I'm going to go make my dinner and, oh, I need to get that from the shops tomorrow. It's just, I don't know. And I don't know what to do with it. And I don't have any answers. And that's why I fear saying anything, because I feel like if I say something, it has to be articulate and thought out and informative and intelligent. And I feel like I'm none of those things. I don't know what to say. So I don't know if that makes any sense. And I don't know if any of you have even watched at this point. But yeah. So I'd love to know your thoughts on any of the things I've said. And I hope you're well. I hope you're not finding everything too stressful, be that world events or personal events to you. I know this time of year can be really hard for some people. And yeah, I will hopefully see you soon. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.